You think showing up here changes anything? You ruined this family 5 years ago. That's my mother, Linda West, saying that to my face in the parking lot of my own apartment building. I'm Faith West, 22, and according to my family, I've been the villain since I was a teenager. My sister's standing behind her, arms crossed, doing the trembling lip act she's been doing since she was 12. Catherine West, 20. She hasn't changed, she's just gotten better at it. I hadn't seen either of them in 5 years, not since the day they put me in a car and drove me to a place with a brochure and a green lawn and a name that sounded like a summer camp. I was 16 when it happened. Let me back up. We lived outside Nashville, in a house that looked perfect if you didn't stay long enough to notice anything. My mom kept it that way on purpose. Porch swept every morning, everything arranged like company was always about to arrive. My dad, Tom, worked constantly and disappeared into the garage the second he was home, letting my mom run things however she wanted. And Catherine, 14 back then, had already figured out that crying got her further than telling the truth ever would. One night I came home from my shift at the diner and found her on the kitchen floor, sobbing into my mother's shoulder, a bruise blooming across her arm. "Faith did this," she said. "She grabbed me." I'd clocked out 20 minutes earlier. My manager could have confirmed it. Nobody asked. My mother looked at that bruise, looked at me, and decided who I was before I said a single word. 3 days later, there was a folder on the kitchen table, glossy brochure, green lawn, a name that sounded like a wellness retreat, Willow Creek Youth Center. "We think this will help you," my mother said. "Help me with what? I didn't touch her." That's exactly what someone in denial says. Catherine watched from the hallway, arms crossed, saying nothing because she didn't need to say anything. She'd already won. 2 days after that, I was in the back of my dad's car with a duffel bag at my feet, watching my street disappear, and I didn't say one word the whole ride. I just kept thinking, they weren't fixing me, they were getting rid of me. Now, 5 years later, standing in this parking lot, my mother's telling me I ruined the family, like I'm the one who sent someone away for something they didn't do. "I have something for you," I said, and pulled an envelope out of my bag. Her face changed the second she saw what was printed on the front of it, a name she thought she'd buried 5 years ago from a lawsuit that had just been unsealed that morning. If this one's already got you hooked, hit that hype button before we go further. My mother didn't take the envelope. She stared at it like it might bite her. "What is that?" she said. Not really a question, more like she already knew and was hoping she was wrong. "Open it." Catherine stepped up beside her, and for the first time in 5 years, I didn't see fake tears on her face. I saw fear, real fear, the kind she never had to fake before because nothing ever actually landed on her. Inside that envelope was a filing from a class action lawsuit against Willow Creek Youth Center, the place they sent me when I was 16. Former residents had sued the facility over falsified intake reports and injuries logged as self-harm that weren't self-inflicted at all. The case had been sealed while it moved through the courts. It went public that morning. My file number was listed in the filing, so was proof that my intake paperwork had been backdated, signed and stamped before I'd ever actually been evaluated by anyone. My mother's hands were shaking by the time she finished the first paragraph. "You have no idea what those 5 months did to me. You have no idea what it's like to be 16 and locked somewhere on a lie." I need to back up, because you don't understand what help looked like at that place. From the parking lot, Willow Creek looked fine. Clean brick, big windows, a tree logo on a sign out front like it was some kind of wellness retreat. Inside, it smelled like bleach and old carpet, and the first thing they did was take my phone, my shoelaces, even the hair tie off my wrist. A staff member handed me 2 shirts with the center's name printed on the back and a folder of house rules I never agreed to and was never asked to. My roommate was a girl named Priya, 17, 4 months in for defiance after she told a school counselor what her stepfather had been doing to her. First night, lying in the dark, she told me, "Don't argue in group, just say what they want to hear. Arguing adds weeks." I didn't listen, not at first. In my very first group session, when the counselor asked me to describe the incident with my sister, I said, "It didn't happen the way she said it did. I wasn't even home." The counselor wrote something on her clipboard without even looking up at me. "Denial," she said, very common in the early stages. "There's nothing to be in denial about. Check my work schedule." Nobody ever checked my work schedule, not once, in 5 months. We revisited the incident every single week after that. Every week I told the truth, and every week it got logged as proof I wasn't progressing. 2 months in, my parents came for a scheduled visit. Staff arranged the room to look warm, plants, a plate of cookies, soft lighting, the whole show. My mother hugged me like we were being filmed, because in a way we were. She told the counselor how much calmer I seemed. I'd said maybe 10 words the entire visit. That wasn't healing, that was a 16-year-old learning fast that silence was survival. That night, after they left, I finally broke one of Priya's rules. I got loud in session. Not violent, just done, and told the counselor that nothing I said in that room mattered because the outcome had already been decided the day I walked through the front door. They didn't write that down as anger, they wrote it down as a setback. That one setback is the reason 90 days turned into 5 months. Back in the parking lot, my mother was still staring at that same page, reading it over and over like the words might rearrange themselves if she just looked hard enough. "You knew," I said. "Both of you knew exactly what that place was before you signed me over to it. You just didn't care as long as the problem disappeared for a while." Catherine's voice came out small behind her. "Mom, what does the second page say?" My mother turned the page and her face went white in a way I had never once seen in 22 years. Not angry, not defensive, scared. Because the second page listed parents named as co-defendants for filing false reports to justify their kids' admissions. Her name was on that list. My mother sat down right there in the parking lot, just dropped onto the concrete curb like her legs stopped working. "This isn't real," she said. "They can't put my name on this. I didn't fill anything out." "I signed the intake form," I said. "I still have a copy. I requested my full file the day I turned 18. She looked up at me like I'd been planning this for 4 years. I had. "Let me take you back one more time because you need to understand how I got that file in the first place. I came home from Willow Creek at 16, 5 months later than they promised, and nothing in that house had changed except me. My room was already turned into a home office. My things were in boxes in the garage labeled Faith's Old Stuff, like I was a season that had passed. Catherine had a new phone, new clothes, a new confidence that came from watching someone else take the fall for her for 5 months straight. At dinner that first night, my mother asked surface questions. Did they feed you okay? Did you learn anything? I said yes to everything, because I'd learned that answering fast and short kept the room calm. Calm was currency in that house, and I'd finally figured out how to spend it. School wasn't better. Word gets around fast in a small enough town. Kids whispered the one who hurt her sister in the hallway like it was fact. One teacher pulled me aside and said, careful, slow, like I was made of glass, "I hope you're doing better now." I said yeah. That was the whole conversation. I got a job at a garage on the edge of town, run by a man named Rick. 50s, quiet, didn't ask questions he didn't need answered. He taught me brakes, taught me how to listen to an engine instead of a person, because engines don't lie about what's wrong with them. For the first time in over a year, I felt like a person instead of a problem someone was managing. Catherine, meanwhile, was thriving off what she'd built. I heard her on the phone one night, laughing, telling a friend, "Yeah, it worked. She's basically a robot now. Mom said I saved this family." I didn't say anything. I just closed the door quietly and went back to counting the money I'd started saving from every paycheck, in an account nobody in that house knew existed. The day I turned 18, I drove myself to the courthouse on my lunch break and filed a formal request for my complete Willow Creek record. Every intake form, every session note, every signature. Under the law, once I was an adult, that record was mine to request, parental consent or not. It took the facility 6 weeks to send. When it came, I read every page twice. That's when I found the backdated intake form, my mother's signature, dated 4 days before my actual intake evaluation, which meant she'd agreed to send me somewhere and signed off on a diagnosis before anyone had even met me. I didn't do anything with it right away. I just kept it, because Rick used to say something that stuck with me. Don't swing a wrench you're not ready to use yet. I wasn't ready yet, not until Catherine gave me a reason. 2 years after I came home, she got caught stealing from our grandmother, cash out of her purse, twice, both times blamed on a friend, until the second time when Grandma installed a camera after the first theft and caught her on tape. My mother tried to handle it quietly, paid Grandma back herself, called it a misunderstanding, told anyone who asked that Catherine was going through something. That's when I understood nothing had changed. They'd protect her for a felony the same way they sacrificed me over a bruise that wasn't even real. So 3 weeks ago, I mailed a copy of my full Willow Creek file, backdated signature and all, to the law firm representing the class action against the facility. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because 5 other families were already suing, and their case needed one more file that proved the pattern wasn't a mistake. It was a system. I just didn't expect the filing to go public the same week I ran into my mother outside my own apartment. Back on that curb, my mother was still holding the papers, and for the first time in my life, I watched her face go from angry to something else entirely. "If this goes to court," she said quietly, "I could lose my nursing license." I looked at her for a long moment. "Then I guess you'll finally know what it feels like to have something taken from you that you didn't do anything to deserve." Catherine's phone rang in her pocket. She looked at the screen and her face drained of color. "It's Grandma. She never calls me." Catherine let the phone ring twice before she answered it, her hand shaking so hard I could hear the case rattling against her rings. "Grandma?" I couldn't hear the other side, but I watched Catherine's face fold in on itself in real time. Whatever was being said, it wasn't gentle. "I didn't," Catherine started, then stopped. "That's not what happened." My mother pushed herself up off the curb, grabbing for the phone, like she could fix this the way she'd fixed everything else for 20 years, by taking it out of the hands of the person actually responsible. "Mom, give me the phone. That's between me and—" Catherine pulled away. "She says the bank called her about a loan." I felt my stomach drop, but not from surprise, from confirmation. Here's something I hadn't told either of them yet. When I filed for my Willow Creek records at 18, I didn't stop there. I also pulled my own credit report, because a counselor at Willow Creek, one of the only decent ones, a woman named Miss Adeyemi, who didn't last long at that place, had quietly warned me before I left. She said, "Check your credit before you turn 19. Just do it. Trust me." I did, and I found a credit card opened in my name when I was 15 years old, 6 months before Willow Creek. $4,000 in charges, all made while I was locked away with no phone, no wallet, no way to spend a cent. I never told my parents I found it. I paid it off myself in secret, in cash, over 2 years working at Rick's garage, because I didn't want them to know I knew. I wanted to see how long they'd let the debt sit there, assuming I'd never check. I wanted proof of who opened it before I said a word. It took me until I was 20 to get the answer. A subpoena isn't something a 20-year-old garage employee can just request, but a lawyer working the Willow Creek case can, when your file becomes part of discovery. 3 weeks ago, when I sent them my paperwork, I also sent them that card statement and asked one favor: pull the original application. The signature on it wasn't mine. It wasn't my mother's either. It was Catherine's, 13 years old at the time, forging my name onto a credit application because she'd figured out how to grab my mail before I did. "Grandma," Catherine said into the phone, voice cracking, "please, just let me explain." My mother snatched the phone this time, hard enough that Catherine yelped, "Mom, I've got this. Let me talk to her." But it was too late. I already knew what Grandma was calling about because I was the one who told her lawyer to loop her in. Grandma had co-signed a small personal loan for Catherine 2 years ago, the one Catherine used to pay back the money she stole from her purse. Turns out that loan had never actually been used to repay Grandma at all. It went to a car Catherine still drives. Grandma found out today because the bank sent a notice about a missed payment, and Grandma called the bank directly, instead of asking Catherine, because Grandma stopped trusting Catherine's version of events the day she caught her on camera. My mother's voice went sharp into the phone. "Mom, whatever she told you, it's complicated. Catherine's been under a lot of pressure." I watched my mother defend her live, in real time, with a stack of legal filings sitting in her other hand, proving how far she'd go to protect the version of Catherine she'd built in her head, instead of the one standing in front of her. I didn't say anything. I just took out my phone and opened the folder I'd been building for 2 years. Bank records, the credit card application, the forged signature analysis the law firm ran as part of discovery. All of it, dated, time-stamped, verified. I'd been planning to save this for a lawyer, for a courtroom, for some future moment I hadn't figured out yet. But watching my mother lie to her own grandma to protect Catherine one more time, I realized I wasn't waiting anymore. "Catherine," I said, loud enough that she looked up from the phone, "give the phone to Grandma. Faith, stay out of—" "Give her the phone." Catherine's hand was shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. She held it out to me instead of her mother, like some part of her already knew I was the one who was supposed to have it. I put it to my ear. "Grandma, it's Faith. I have something you need to see today, not later, and I think it's time everyone in the family saw it at the same time." Behind me, my mother went very, very quiet. 3 weeks later, we were all in the same room for the first time since that parking lot, my grandmother's dining room of all places, because she's the one who called the meeting and none of us had the nerve to say no to her. Grandma sat at the head of the table with a manila folder of her own, reading glasses pushed up on her nose, and for the first time in my life, I watched someone else in this family get looked at the way I used to get looked at. "Catherine," she said, "the car, the loan, explain it to me again, slower this time." Catherine tried the same trembling voice that had worked on my mother for a decade. It didn't work on Grandma. Grandma had seen the forged signature on my old credit application herself. My mother had finally shown her everything after that phone call, because for once, my mother couldn't spin her way out of paperwork with a real bank stamp on it. "I was going to pay you back," Catherine said. "With what?" Grandma said. "You've never paid anyone back in your life. Faith paid people back. You take." My mother sat next to Catherine, hands folded so tight her knuckles were white, saying nothing for the first time in this entire story. I almost didn't recognize her like that. Quiet wasn't a color I'd ever seen on her. Here's what happened in those 3 weeks, fast because you don't need every detail. The Willow Creek lawsuit added my file to the record, backdated signature and all. My mother wasn't criminally charged, the statute on the paperwork fraud had technically run out, but the civil case named her and her nursing board opened a review once the filing went public. Last I heard, she's on a supervised license for the next 2 years, which in her world might as well be a public flogging. Catherine's forgery on the credit card was a different story. Fraud against a minor's identity doesn't age out the same way, and once Grandma got involved, she wasn't interested in protecting anyone. She filed a police report herself. Catherine's looking at a diversion program, first offense, but it's on paper now, permanently. No amount of crying fixes a court record. My dad, Tom, finally said something out loud that day he should have said 6 years ago. He looked at me across that table and said, "I knew you didn't do it. The night with the bruise. I saw her fall off her bike earlier that week. I just didn't say anything because it was easier." I didn't yell at him. I didn't need to anymore. I just said, "I know. I heard you and Mom talking that night through the wall. I've known for 6 years." He didn't have anything to say back to that. Grandma closed her folder and looked around the table at all of them, my mother, my father, my sister, like she was closing a file on all three at once. "I'm not paying anyone's bills anymore," she said. "Not Catherine's car, not Linda's lawyer, nothing. You built this, you can sit in it." Then she looked at me. "You should have told me sooner." "I tried to tell people sooner," I said. "Nobody wanted to hear it from me." She nodded once, like that was the only answer she needed. I left that house that afternoon and didn't look back at it once, not even in the mirror. I drove to the shop because it was a Tuesday, and Tuesdays still needed brakes changed and oil topped off, no matter what my family was doing to itself at that dining table. Rick was under a hood when I walked in. He didn't ask how it went. He just said, "Bay 3's got a transmission waiting on you," and handed me a wrench. That's the thing nobody tells you about getting your life back. It doesn't come with an apology big enough to match what was taken. It just comes quiet, one Tuesday at a time, with work that's honest and people who don't need you to be anything other than what you actually are. I still don't talk to my mother. Catherine's tried calling twice. I haven't picked up either time. My dad sends a text on my birthday now, and I answer it, because some bridges you burn on purpose and some you just let go dark on their own. Some things don't get repaired. You just learn to stop waiting for someone else to fix them, and you fix your own life instead, one honest day at a time.